But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the half. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and masters swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm so honored and excited to have this week's guest. He was a father figure to me. He was my coach for 4 years in college, 10 years with the USA team. And really, I credit most of my great swims to his coaching and influence. And he's coached hundreds of other All-Americans and dozens of national champions, world champions, and Olympians. And 14 NCAA team titles at the University of Texas. Just finished his 42nd season there, which really arguably makes him the most successful swim coach of all time. And he actually grew up a swimmer and was an ultimate swimmer, leading his Florida team to 5 gold medals at his senior year in 1963. So a true ultimate swimmer and definitely an ultimate swimmer coach. Please welcome to the show, Eddie Reese. Thanks for being on the show, Eddie.
Thank you, Josh. It sounded like I wrote the introduction for you.
Yeah, you can slip me a 20 later, but no, it's all true, and I could go on and on of just the impact you've had on me and hundreds of other swimmers and thousands of campers, and you and Chris Kubik and now Wyatt have impacted so many people, and including myself, and so I don't want to get all emotional thinking about it, but I just want to say thank you for letting me be on your team and letting me be a part of the Texas legacy, and for all your great sets and impact on my life. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Josh. It's been a two-way street. I get as much from those that I'm given to as I could ever want. If it weren't for all the swimmers and what I learned from them, I couldn't be progressing and still progressing.
Yeah, well said. That's beautiful. Well, obviously, we're going to spend time talking a little bit later about all the great years at Texas, but I always love hearing stories about you growing up with Randy in Florida, and your career as a swimmer in high school and college. Not many people know that you were a great 200 breast, 200 IM, 400 IM champion at the University of Florida. Can you just take us back to a little snapshots of your life growing up in Florida in high school and college?
Oh, my goodness. Well, back in those days, where I was from, Daytona Beach, the amount of training you did would not equal a moderate warm-up nowadays. I can remember I was about 16 and I went in to a workout, and I don't even remember having a coach there. And I did a 1600 IM, and that's all anybody talked about for about 3 weeks. But that's all I did that day. That was warm up and workout. So I mean, we've come so far. What I say about my college career was that had we had all the events they have now, had freshmen eligible, you'd have never heard of Caleb Dressel and Ryan Lochte. It would have been all me. Because I think I'm third on the list of SEC championships. That's lasted a long time. But the SEC has been an amazing conference for a lot of years. It wasn't so amazing when I swam.
That's great. Well, obviously, you know a lot as a coach because you were a swimmer yourself, and so you can. I love how you can still relate to your swimmers because of your past. And you figured out some things when in your swimming career, and you're able to communicate that to your swimmers. So I appreciate your ability to understand the intricacies of technique and just the subtle pitches of the hand and the angles and all the great technique things that a great ultimate coach has to have. Um, did you know you were going to be coaching though when you were swimming in college?
I did not, but all my teammates did. They kept telling me, you need to be a coach because all you're trying to do is coach us. So you talk about technique a little bit. I went to a NCAA championship uh, when I was a high school coach. My first year out of grad school, Roswell, New Mexico. We drove up and watched the NCAA's and get this at Air Force Academy.
Oh my!
Yeah, there was no air up there. All the all the breaststrokers in the 400 IM were not taking the pull out. But from that meet and a couple of meets I went to as an assistant coach in Florida, I noticed all the swimmers were big, they were strong, and they didn't have good strokes. So at that point, I figured the big and strong we could get to and in shape, but the technique was a part that was being left out. And I believe even to this day, technique is left out too much. We need to do a better job in that, all of us, including myself.
Well, I just skimmed and reread your book, Eddie Reese, Coaching Swimming, Teaching Life, and there's a big chapter on technique and how you really you never stop working on it. You never stop, learning new things and staying on guys and fixing things.
Well, it's working on technique is like yard work or housework. If you don't do it, it just gets worse and worse. And it's harder to do if you wait on it. That's why we try to, as Wayne Goldsmith says, Wayne's one of my mentors, even though he's a lot younger. He's just a genius with people and how to get them to do good things and to find out how good they can be. And he just says, you must stay engaged. You must talk to them. One of the easy things to talk to them about is technique. We all know technique. It's available in thousands of videos and a lot of explanations. Everybody's talked about it. We just talking about it doesn't get it done. Got to help the swimmers with it.
Yeah, that's well said. And now I'm in my fourth year as a college coach, and I just draw on your stuff so much about, one of my concepts is 3 touches per practice per swimmer,
Excellent.
where you say something nice, or encourage something, or kind of fix something in a positive way. Just call those a touch. 3 touches per swimmer per practice. And so if you have 30 swimmers in a pool and you try and get 3 touches, I mean, that's 90 touches. I mean, that's 90 things where your brain is thinking, you're watching, you're fixing, you're talking. You have to be engaged to do that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one experience I had with that. When I was at Auburn, we had 22 to 24 people. And I would do, and I love the word touches, I would do 5 touches.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, some of them had to be, nice bathing suit, because they weren't doing anything well. So to find something positive, yeah, you got a haircut, just little things.
Yeah.
But one summer, Randy he was coaching in Jacksonville and went to the World Championships in Guayaquil, Ecuador. And he asked me to come down, coach his team. Josh, he had 75 people in one workout.
Whoa.
I got through about 30 minutes of trying to say 5 good things, and I forgot who I'd said anything to. So I sat down for about 15 minutes and just figured out a pattern. Just start at one side of the pool, take care of everybody in that lane, and move. It was a little bit automatic, but it got the job done.
Yeah. Well, just that extra effort really goes a long way to keep the swimmers engaged, to keep them coming back day after day, to keep motivated. So that really means a lot. And, I learned that from you. So thank you. I want to just touch a little bit more on technique. I think of all the things, the guys you've recruited, thankfully came in with some decent technique, and you like to recruit a feel for the water, kind of a long swimming vessel that has a good feel for the water. And you traditionally put them in the weight room and put some meat on them, and they usually do pretty good.
They always do pretty good, Josh.
And I have this theory, though. I want to get your take on it. If a kid hasn't kind of gotten a feel for the water by 16 or 17 years old, do you think there's hope for them after that?
A lot of times when somebody has just had a growth spurt, sorry, a lot of times when somebody's had a growth spurt and their limbs become disproportionate to their strength at that time, they can look like they haven't got a feel for the water, because as they're coming through, they're not strong enough to hold the water, and they drop their elbow. And so that can definitely throw you off.
I think that's true too, because I've seen a lot of guys over the years at Texas. The stronger they got, the more coordination and better their technique got, because they could handle it. They could move their body better. They were stronger. So I think that's a great point.
And the pattern they pull underwater is really important. Like you say, when I recruit a swimmer I haven't seen swim, and I talk to their mom, I ask them how they swim, and I look for the word pretty. But that just means they're efficient. We can all see that. The ones that are difficult to see are the ones I just described, as far as limb length and strength. It'd be nice if we could just get the ones that can do it right at first, but that's not the way the sport is. Swimmers are notoriously late bloomers. I mean, I think coming out of high school, Ryan Lochte was an 800 guy. I recruited Ryan and Davis Starwater as my distance swimmer that year. Lost them both, but Davis went on to be a great 200 flyer. Ryan went on to be a great everything, shorter than an 800. So you never know what they're going to do. You just keep working in the right direction to give them a chance to do it, to be the best they can be, 17 and up.
Yeah. A lot of changes happened between the age of 17 and 21 for sure. So that's good. That's good commentary. Speaking of recruiting, one of the things that in the recruiting wars, I think schools have said for 20 years now that you're going to retire. And but you're still there and you're still producing fast guys and winning titles. So and now you've got more fast guys coming in. And so I you're just going to have to keep coaching, I guess, and keep squelching all these rumors that you're going to retire.
What I say to that, Josh, is every year I coach, I get 1 year closer to retiring. And if I look for a number of things, if it's not fun for me, and it used to be, had a little bit to do with they laughed at my jokes, but I think this past year I was the funniest I've ever been. So I really enjoy that. But the number one thing is it's very simple. I want them to improve. I don't want them to drop from 46.5 to 44.2 in 3 years. Like I have one guy that's been from 46.5 out of high school to 42.9. That's what I want. If I can't get them to improve significantly, I'm going to be gone. Just like this past year, we had 24 guys make NCAA standards, swimming, not counting diving. Nobody's ever had that many. And the way I judge my team, if we've gotten better, is by what the bottom third does. If they don't get better, I'm running a program that is not good enough for the best guys. If my bottom third's getting better, program's hard enough for the best guys to get better.
That's cool.
It has nothing to do with winning. We don't talk about winning. I want, when we have individual conferences beginning of the year, my question is, or my quest is, I want them to help me make them better. And if they do that, it's hard to fail.
I by the way, speaking of locker room talks, that's one of my favorite things about my favorite memories about being there 4 years with you at the college team and 10 more years with the USA team. So 14 years total, I got to train with you guys morning and night. And I loved the locker room meetings. In fact, I remember some sets and I remember some meets, but the thing I always go back to in my mind is our locker room meetings and just where you'd give us life advice and swimming advice in our little locker room chats. And, I wish I could have recorded more of those, but the lessons are still there, and like you just said, your famous quote is take care of yourself, take care of each other, and the rest of it will take care of itself. And, another one I remember is nothing is more fun than going fast.
That's true.
And a lot of guys get tempted or distracted with weekend activities and they think it's a lot of fun, but you always remind us nothing is more fun than preparing and achieving fast swims.
We talked now a little bit because the sport has gotten so fast. If I weren't coaching now, I would not believe how fast everybody's going. I mean, 2015, 45.9 scored in the top 8 of the 100 butterfly. And had we gone to the meet this year, 45.9 would have been 30th on getting into the meet.
Wow.
100 fly. It's just crazy. Everybody's bigger, stronger. The fly kicks better. The individual medley 16th is, you got to break 143 to be 16th.
I know.
If you write that down, it's impossible to do. But yet you got 16, 20 guys doing it. Girls, same way. 5 years ago, 215 in the breaststroke and 415 in the 400 IM were good times. Now you go 210 and 410, you don't get invited to the meet. So
Wow.
there are a lot of good things being done out there. And I talk about swimming is like climbing a mountain. You know, the exhilaration you get from being on top of the mountain, but it's painful to get there. And it is continuously, daily painful to get there, but it's worth the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Two other stories that impacted me from our locker room talks is you shared how you personally have never drank alcohol. And, I think for some of the guys that was like, how is that possible? But you made it seem so normal. Like, yeah, I don't like it. It doesn't make me better. I'm, and you do a side joke, you're a great dancer with your wife. You don't need it to dance better. It's just, I don't need it. And I always remembered that. I thought, yeah, maybe I don't need it either. So.
Every once in a while I try to figure out why I never drank. Because I think part of it was when I was in high school, I embarrassed very easily. I did not like to call attention to myself. I've done a 180 since then, but and I wouldn't do anything. I mean, when they'd call my name for roll call in class, I'd turn red.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get embarrassed just by that attention. So when school was over, I'd go home, get my stuff, go to swim practice, and never go out at night. Played foot. We had narrow streets back in those days. Played 2-on-2 football in the streets, or played until you couldn't see outside. So I just never did it. Both mom and dad drank alcohol, not a whole lot, but some. So I saw it. That kind of made it all right, but I just couldn't do it. I'm glad I didn't, because if I like something, whether it's bagels or Chick-fil-A vanilla milkshakes, I do it.
Yeah.
And I would not like to have liked it and done it, because it doesn't lead in a good direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always remembered that. And one of my other favorite quotes is, there's a reason the words give and live are just one letter different. If you really want to live, you give. And, it's not about what we can take from this world, it's what we can give to others that really make a difference and leave the world a better place. And so I always appreciate your emphasis on giving.
I've actually decided that's why we're here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We're just here to help each other. And I know for most young people, they've got to, the old saying about find themselves. I don't believe that. I think they've got to like themselves, and then they can do that. I get asked by a number of coaches, how do you make international trips? How do you put people on the team? How do you be a good coach? And my number one comment is you must forget yourself. Take care of the athlete, forget how you feel. If somebody has a bad swimming is a naked evaluation. You're out there in a very small suit. You're in a lane by yourself against everybody else. Everybody knows when you give up. You know it. See, and it's not our part to pile on them. It's our part to say, that's not like you. We'll do better next time. Let's work on trying to fix that. So we can't. I read this book. Actually, I read the protective cover. Name of it is Leadership is an Art by a guy named Max Depree, Depree. He was the CEO of Herman Miller Furniture Company. And I was struggling at the time because I see when I get people upset and they grimace or shake their head no. I hear all the conversations. I hear 200 negatives a day. All right. And not so much now, but more back then. And I would tell my wife, I said, my glass for receiving pain is almost full. And this was 25 years ago, maybe 30. And she said, she just reached up and pulled down a book. And it said, Leadership is an Art. I read the protective cover. Said the leader should bear the pain and never give the pain. That's what I've been doing. Even though my pain glass was full, that wiped it out because somebody else said it was right to do it that way. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So that's why we say good things to swimmers. That's why our culture is so good on our team, because in practice, they say good things to each other. I tell them, if you want to say something bad, leave it alone. That's up to me. Somebody's having a bad day, I'll move them to the diving well. A peer cannot tell another peer, come on, you're not doing well enough, pick it up. You find something good to say or leave it alone.
Yeah, peer-to-peer encouragement has to be done just right, for sure. And but I love how you say the coach doesn't need to give more pain, because swimming is such a risky endeavor already. You bear it and you just stay positive and build them up. I love that. You talk about the culture and traditions at Texas. I love some of the traditions that we did, and I know there's some new ones since I was there. The quadrathlon is the 50 fly, 50 back, 50 breast, 50 free, the first couple weeks of school. Excuse me. And then there's the Eddie Reese invite, which we didn't do when I was there, but it's become very popular. What time of year do y'all do the Eddie Reese invite?
Oh, usually we'll do it like in mid-October. Then again, middle, maybe the weekend before we go home for Thanksgiving, somewhere in there, about 2 weeks out from the big invitationals that occur in the first weekend in December. And it's just a off-distance event at distances that they can have nothing but good feelings about. Like our sprint freestylers go a 300, a 150, and a 50 on about 30 minutes in between each. And we put suits on this year, and one of my 19.8, 42.9 sprinters went 232 for 300 free. I mean, there were about 5 of them. And then they knew they were going to be good. We did that like sometime in February. Then they come back with a 150 and go 108s. Then they go the 50 free and they go from 19.8 to 20.2 after those 2 previous events. So not only do I know how good they're going to be, they know they're going to be really good.
Yeah, that's so fun. And those are great distances mentally to just free them up to go for it.
It is.
So I love that. Some other famous sets that y'all tend to do, the 2050s fly on 35. When I first heard that, I was a little in shock, but we did it. You figure out how to do it and you do it. And I heard lately you maybe have some guys going 30.
Oh, Josh, this 2050 flies on 35 for some of them is easy. This year, Andrew Kustik went 1250 flies on 30. Austin Katz went 1450 backs on 30. And once you touch on your back, you got to get your feet to the wall to push off. So I think that's a lot harder. And Sam Pomayevich, this was their idea. Sam Pomayevich went 65 50 flies on 35. And
Okay.
I stopped him and I got booed by the team. And he said, I wanted you to stop me earlier. I said, Sam, you're going 27s and 28s. How could I stop you? And then Ryan Hardy went 4,100 flutter kicks on a board with a snorkel on 115. And I stopped him, told him after 39 he was through on 40. He went 103 on his 40th one.
That's no fins, right? Just a kickboard.
That's just flutter kick. Yes.
Wow.
They come up with all this stuff. We've had 2050s breaststroke on 35. One of the girl flyers kicked 2050s fly on 35.
Oh wow.
Madison Cox went all her 50s on 35, went 5 fly, 5 back, 5 breast, 5 free.
That is awesome.
I know. I mean, and I don't have to make it harder. They do. So I'm not the bad guy in this.
Yeah, it's so fascinating at Texas. You have a great formula of 5 afternoons, 3 to 5 p.m., where it's always pretty hard, 2 hours. You do give us a nice long warm up, which is nice, but then we pretty much race the rest of the hour and a half.
Yeah, you do.
And then you let us pick 3 mornings. You have to go Monday morning, and then you could pick the other 2 mornings. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. And then we'd always do Saturday morning, 9 to 11, which I really appreciate. You let us sleep in a little bit. And that created 9 swims a week. And then dry lands was 2 to 3 every day. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is typically weights. And we lifted pretty hard. And I'm sure it's still the same way. And then Tuesday, Thursday, some kind of dry land, something. And so it's basically 9 swims and 5 dry lands. It's a tough formula. And you would give these great sets with great intervals, and everybody else would just keep racing and making it way harder than we had to. And, and my training partner was Aaron Pearsall, Nate Dusing, Neil Walker, Ian Crocker, and Brendan Hansen. And none of us liked to lose.
Got it.
We hated to lose. And so it was just an awful formula to try and go the times you wanted us to. No, we never did it. We just,
No, I know. I tell the story. We did something like 3-1s on 115. I don't even remember, but it was a series of 3 hard 100s, 2 easy. And we went like 5 rounds. And I gave everybody the fastest time I told them to go. I said, just go 52s. In your group, whatever the next group, you go 54s, you go 56s. Pretty soon we're going 49s, and the 54 guys are going 51s. I mean, I kiddingly say that they make me look better than I am, but they do make me look better than I am. But they go hard at everything.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your formula, and I appreciate how you create an environment where guys want to race each other. And now that I'm a college coach, I tell people that for 14 years when I was with you, I never did the same workout twice. Every day was a little different. We did have the signature sets that we would kind of use as markers now and again, but even those, we hardly repeated that much within a year. And but every day was hard. Every day was unique. Every day was creative. And so my 3 words that I have as my philosophy that I got from you is the 3 words is creative, productive, pain. And
I like that.
So creative, productive pain. So pain is good for you because that's how you shock the muscle and get stronger. And then but you want the pain to be productive. The distance guys have to kind of do what they need to do, and the middle distance guys and stroke guys need to do what they need to do. And you know how the sprinters are; they kind of need to do what they need to do. And so you always made it productive for everybody and their muscle type, and yet challenging. And it was creative. That to me was the most impressive. A lot of times, you may have had some sets that you had written in your famous yellow notepad earlier in the day or week, but you kind of just gave it to us on the spot. And every day was just, a creative, productive, painful, master, mad scientist, genius workout. It was just wonderful. And so I appreciate that. Do you do a lot of these things just come to you as you walk on deck and you read the group? Or is it half and half? You kind of half planned it and then half made it up.
Yes to all of that. The thing that I know is what we need to be doing at this time of year. So if it's October and November, primarily aerobic. If they're real tired from a weight workout and a couple of hard workouts the day before, I'll tell them, look, keep your heart rate between 130 and 150, which is way easier than the 160 to 180 to make aerobic gains. But and it never works that way. You get after about a third of it, they're all at 160 to 180. But Scott Spann gave some advice to some swimmers a long time ago. And he just said, do it exactly the way Eddie tells you to do it. And you will come out where you want to be. And for the most part, that's right. This group goes beyond that.
You've had several dynasties. There was the 88, 89, 90, 91, 4 in a row. That my freshman year was 91. So I got to be a part of that final year of that dynasty. And that was special just, because I remember coming to watch you guys train when I'd come to meets at Austin and I'd see the Olympians, Doug Jertson and Sean Jordan and all the rest of the guys. And I thought, wow, I want to be like them. how neat would it be if I could train like them and in this pool with you guys? And thankfully, you let me do that. So that was kind of a special group of guys and special group of Olympians. And then you got the 2000, 2001, 2002, those 3 years in a row. And thankfully, I was still training with that group as a pro swimmer. And that was special with Nate Dusing and Jamie Roush and a little bit of Brendan and Ian. So that was a special 3 years. And then now we're finishing up the 15, 16, 17, 18, which was an incredibly special group of guys. Very, very, a lot of dominance and depth on your team with those four. And just when you didn't think you could get a better class, the guys you have now are incredible too. So any thoughts come to mind about those three dynasties, and then maybe one that's looming ahead?
When I first got here, I went down south of I-10 to speak to a group. It was one of the University of Texas birthdays. And I'd only been here 2 or 3 years. And I got there early and I was talking to people in the group, and they kept telling me how great the University of Texas was. And I asked them, what makes it great? Then they started talking about people and times they had spent with those people. So any team, I'm part of the equation, but I'm 10 or 20% of the equation. The rest of it is the guys on the team. Anytime we do that kind of stuff, mostly comes from them. And as I said, because like the fastest times of a 10th grader ever in the history of the world. Are you ready? Flat start in a meet, 20.7, 50 fly, 20.8, 50 back. So flat starts, automatic times in a meet, 52.5, 100 breast, 19.6, 50 free. All right, nobody can do that. I mean, I've got some guys that can do part of that, but that's, there are other guys. I got a guy coming in, it's been 46, 144 in the butterfly, and he tries breaststroke in a meet and goes 53-1. How many butterflyers can swim breaststroke?
Yeah.
I mean, the talent is there, but I've got to help them and they've got to help me. It's never a one-way street. It's always a two-way street.
Well, to complete the whole team effect, you've done a super job having arguably some of the best assistant coaches on the planet in Chris Kubik and now Wyatt Collins. Chris was there with you for over 35 years. And, one of the smartest, most caring guys on the planet, could have been a head coach anywhere.
Without a doubt.
And, thankfully, y'all's combo, y'all stayed together, and it was glorious.
Well, the way I say it is Chris was a genius at people and a genius at a lot of other things out there. We were just lucky he got into the sport of swimming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. So thankful for Chris and all he did to partner with you to make so many great things happen. And Wyatt has moved nicely into that position and complimented you very, very well, and has a great rapport with the guys and is smart too. So that's been looks like it's been a comfortable, seamless transition.
And Wyatt does a phenomenal job. he is probably the best recruiter I've ever been around, just because he's so thorough and in fact, and a lot of times you can know a lot of facts and figures and not have the caring side, but he's got it all. He is without a doubt special and a real good reason we're staying in the ball game.
And then I know this, but maybe not everybody else does. The true reason for your greatness is your wife, Eleanor, and your wonderful daughters and family. They've obviously been a huge anchor for you and a huge place of refuge and support and, making life well-rounded and beautiful. And, everybody goes on and on about you, but those of us who really know you guys know Eleanor is the really good one. And the real saint in the group.
I agree with that, and so would she.
So I just cherish my time with her and just little conversations, just her telling stories. I feel better. I always learn something, and so thank you for marrying up and encouraging us swimmers to do the same.
You did.
Absolutely. So obviously you're it was fun to I'm just a little bit younger than your daughters, and so it was fun to kind of grow up with them, and they handled it all very well, of kind of having a famous swim dad, and then pursuing excellence in their own lives, and there's always this funny pressure when you have kids and grandkids, and do they follow you into that respective sport? And it's been so cool to watch your grandson Luke progress as a swimmer and an athlete. And I always used to love listening to your tips, parenting and grandparenting tips of what kids need to succeed. And you got to try out a lot of your tips on your kids and grandkids, and they worked.
I put myself in the obnoxious grandparent category, but I do know this: there are two sources of unconditional love: grandparents and dogs, and that really works.
Yeah. And then finally, speaking of dogs, you are a great dog trainer, dog hunter with your dogs. And what's the latest? I remember stories of is it Blue was your dog when I was there?
Oh yeah,
So we used to get out of warm up if we wanted to ask you Blue stories.
without a doubt.
We'd sit in the locker room a little bit more and get out a few minutes of practice. We could listen to Blue stories. But what's the latest dog tricks?
Actually, we have Pearl and Red. They're brother and sister. Pearl is a black lab. Red is a yellow lab. And I swim most afternoons in the pool. When I finish, they come in and I'll send you some videos of Pearl. I I throw Pearl's toy up in the air and she leaps from the side, and she's amazing. Now Red, I'm going to change his name to Sue, short for tsunami, because when he goes in the water, he weighs about 82 pounds. It just creates a big tidal wave. So that's why I'm naming him.
Well, I think you need to get what they call a TikTok account where you can post the cool dog tricks on this video platform called TikTok.
I love that. Dogs are amazing, and some of the most amazing ones are the ones where they're taking care of babies, whether they're covering them up or they're putting their head on their shoulder. Or, dogs are really good.
That's great. Well, I love how you have a balance of life, taking care of business in the pool and out of the pool. And I think that's, what makes us coach better is when we, you know, um, Tom Landry said, when you're a winner in life, it's easier to be a winner in the pool or on the court or on the field. And when you have that healthy balance of family and enjoying life and giving back, I think it does make you a better coach on deck for sure.
I've seen a lot of coaches get a lot better when they've had children.
Mm-hmm.
So you're exactly right.
Well, we're approaching an Olympic year, and I think of obviously when you've got so many fast guys going for national titles, collegiate titles, that it's only natural to put some guys on the Olympic team. You've put people on the last 9 Olympic teams, soon to be 10 for next year in Tokyo 21. And the story I think of, and maybe you can add to some of this, is there's only 2 guys in history that have beaten Michael Phelps in the 100 fly, and they're your guys from Texas.
Oh, wow.
Ian Crocker beat Michael to hold the world record for 6 years, and he breathed every other, while Michael breathed every stroke.
Right.
And then going into 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I heard it is that you encouraged Joe Schooling, who looked up to Michael, who wanted to swim like Michael and breathe every stroke like Michael. You encouraged him to breathe every other like Ian Crocker did. And he kind of reluctantly, but he did it and mastered it. And then come 2016 Rio, he beat Michael very handily, kind of like Ian did. And breathing out the other seemed to help.
Well, Michael, they looked at breathing every other. Bob and I had talked about it. His coach Bob, and they felt like he was better off breathing every stroke. And I freight train that second 50 of the 100 anyway.
Yeah.
He was not a sprinter, but he was real fast. And there's a difference. He was a fast swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, you used the word, I encouraged him to breathe every other. I was on him every day as nicely as I could be, just especially short course. The way I explain it, if you were to swim a 25 fly all out, most people, 99% of people wouldn't breathe.
Right.
Because you're faster not breathing. So ideally, you want to cut out the right number of breaths that allows you to put your body in that position and go faster. And I talk about this in camp. Everybody comes in have been influenced by Michael to breathe every stroke. 99 out of every 100 should not.
There you have it. I want to read some names in each of the strokes that you've coached, or these names that you've coached relative for their respective strokes, and maybe you could think of any other tips or stories like that. Breaststroke, you had Kirk Stackle, Hans Dersch, Brendan Hansen, Matt Lowe, Scott Spann, Will Lacone, Eric Chanteau, and then ultimately Will Lacone broke the American record going 147, fastest 200 breaststroke of all time, about 5 or 6 strokes per lap. That's an incredible breaststroke group. Any technique tips, anything interesting about those guys in regards to breaststroke?
Breaststroke is all about timing. And I've noticed that you've got to have a good kick, there's no doubt, but you've got to have your arms in shape so that they can keep the stroke rate going. Breaststroke and butterfly speed is determined by efficient stroke rate. In other words, good stroke, but moving your hands faster. Sounds almost logical. But when you get tired and your arms don't move, see, your legs follow your arms.
Right.
So if your arms slow down, your legs slow down. You got to keep your arms going. Do a lot of breaststroke pull. Used to pull it a lot with a buoy. Now we pull it a lot with fins, and a lot of breaststrokers with fins try to get that fly kick in there.
Yeah, to get that.
That slows down. See, it's a pull drill. I tell them it's a pull drill, means you drag your feet or flutter kick them and try to keep your hands moving. And honestly, you can't go more than, for age groupers, 25s like that. For college guys, maybe 50s, occasionally 75s. But to be a good breaststroker, you're a product of what you do. You better swim it. Brendan will tell you one of my favorite sets, 400 breaststroke short course. Will Lacone does it. We all do it. And you not just once. If something's good to do, as they get better, you got to do it more times a week.
Yeah.
10 and under can get better working on fly kick once a week. As they get good at it, you got to go to 3 times a week for them to get better.
Right.
I don't want to ever hold what you've got. I want to move forward. I always think we can get better.
That's good. I'm going to read some backstroke names. Rick Carey, Andy Gill, Brad Bridgewater, Aaron Pearsall, John Shebet, Austin Katz. What kind of backstroke tips and concepts come to mind when I read those names?
Backstroke spin drill. Number 1 drill on earth for making you hurt and making you better. It makes you do the stroke right. What I call it, makes you go faster than you will in a race, which is called overspeed.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the research the last 5 to 8 years on brainwave patterns, the stroke is right and the stroke rate is faster than you're going in a race. And that's what brainwave patterns advocate. They say there's no more muscle memory. I agree. It's brainwave patterns. So you got to have some times during the week that you go race stroke rate. May not be exactly race stroke rate, but in a speedo from a push off, if you're doing 3/100 freeze on 6 minutes, let's say, and you're Danny Krieger, Drew Kibler, Callie Haas, you got to be 46 or 47. And to keep up that stroke rate, you swim an easy 200 in between that round of 3, kick an easy 100, then you go 475s on 5. And you got to go faster than 3/4 what you held on the 100s. If you held 48s on the 100s, you got to go 35 on the 75s. And you move right down that way. The only way to keep up stroke rate, make the rest interval longer, make the distance shorter. We do that probably once every week, something like that. Then on Friday, which the end of the week, if you've been doing a good job, you don't need to keep crushing them. They're already tired. We won't repeat that, but we may do, sprinters may do 50 fast on 2 minutes, 50 easy on 2 minutes. The normal humans, or 200 guys, may do 350s fast, 1 easy on 1.5 minutes. And the distance men I don't know what to do with them. We've done 6 200s on 4. We did a set of 3 200s on 6 in a racing suit. Drew Kibler, this from a push. Drew Kibler went 138, 136, 135. Swam the easy 200, kicked the easy 100, 4 100s on 5 minutes from a push, 244s, 243s. Then we went swam easy 2, kicked an easy 1, 650s. I let him go flying back. He held 22s. That is race stroke rate. That is really moving.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so he's the latest in a group of freestylers that come to mind. Sean Jordan, Doug Jertson, Neil Walker, Garrett Weber-Gale, Ricky Behrens, Dave Walters, Townley Hawes, Brett Ringgold, Clark Smith, now Tate Jackson, and the Foster brothers, Danny Kruger, Drew Kibler. Incredible history of producing 100 and 200 freestylers.
Josh,
And you just mentioned.
Josh, I need to say something about Danny. At the conference meet in West Virginia, 8-foot deep pool, which is good, but it was wavy. They only had single lane lines. And at the end of each lane, the lane lines went underwater. And it was a wavy pool, unshaved, a week or 10 days rest. Danny went 41-2 in the 100.
Wow.
I would, at the NCAAs, he was going to shock people in the 200 free.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have been 40.5 or better in the 100. He is the hardest working sprinter there has ever been. Maybe he and Caleb are the hardest working. I don't really know what Caleb does, but swim all the events he can swim. The versatility. I know he doesn't train like a sprinter.
Right.
Danny works. You ask him to hold 23s, push off in a Speedo, short course 50s. He holds 21s. Jack Conger was watching him one day in practice from about 5 lanes over, and he said, that kid's going to be great. He does everything all out.
That's wonderful.
He has not changed a lick.
Yeah, and he's just a star in the classroom, and just a humble, gracious guy, great family. I mean, he's pretty special kid for sure. Yeah, so I got to work with him a little bit in high school at one of the clinics, and to see where he's come just relatively quickly is wonderful. And there's another. Are you able to talk about a guy you got coming in next year? Is that legal?
If he's already signed, I can.
Is David from Neil's team signed?
Oh yeah. David Johnston. Now, during the coronavirus, he has been in a 25-yard, 1-lane pool, no coach. He goes 10 workouts a week. He goes 4,000 on Sunday. The other 9 workouts, he goes between 7 and 10,000 per workout.
For fun on his own.
Yeah. He is going to challenge me to find a way to challenge him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody in the country doing that. I mean, he's got goals. He's going to do them.
Well, it's shaping up to be another great March 2021 for you guys. Another great battle, probably between you and Berkeley.
For sure.
And then a few months later, June of 21, in fact, just exactly, about 365 days from when this show airs, is the start of the Olympic trials, where you and the Texas guys will try and put some more guys on the USA team and continue that legacy. So probably some guys will surprise people.
I'm hoping.
Like usual. But I just want to say thank you for giving me the privilege of getting to train and be a part of the Texas legacy and helping me do the things I got to do for the USA team. And I could never thank you enough for letting me be a part of your swimming family and all the impact you've had on my life and how it's, I wouldn't have met my wife, Chantel. I wouldn't be traveling the world teaching kids, and probably wouldn't be doing this podcast with all of our other Olympic friends. So just thank you again for all you've done for me and for all the Texas swimmers and for the Team USA.
Well, thank you, Josh, but you'd be out there doing good somewhere or somehow. I have no doubts about that.
Well, I look forward to working camp with you next year. I'm missing that, doing the summer camp with you guys. I can't wait till next summer when we resume that. And then, of course, I'll look forward to getting to cheer you guys on next year at NC2As and trials. And the Eddie Reese book, Coaching Swimming, Teaching Life, is still out there on Amazon and other places you can buy books. A great book by Chuck Warner with Dana Abbott. Two great guys, two great historians. It's a wonderful book you need to have in your library. And so, Eddie, please give your best to your family, and can't wait to see you around the pool soon. So thanks for being on our show.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an ultimate swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your ultimate swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal, to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an ultimate swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.